Look who's coming.
Hi.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Thank you very much, sir.
Hi, welcome. You can sit right here.
Over here?
Yes.
Hello.
I'm wearing this especially for you, sir.
I really appreciate that.
They dared
they
me.
breathable?
They
Hopefully they're
dared me
breathable.
to stay. I said, well, why not? Thank you very much for having you
Stop
here.
looking at them. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I just got in this morning, came straight here.
How was
That's
the
great.
panel? How was the panel?
The panel was fun. A lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Very excited crowd. They did these, like in between a couple segments, they did little clips from Smallville, and it really sort of got things going, and it was a lot of fun. It's like the good old days, you know?
And how fun was to do Smallville for that long? And I mean, I think you have some fans around here.
Hey guys, that girl's gonna fall. It was great. 10 years of a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff. I got to see the character kind of grow up, learn more about himself, and then, you know, obviously created more opportunities for me to work after that too. So I wouldn't be here without it.
And we are celebrating 80 years of Superman, so how
Yeah.
it is to be a part of 80 years of history?
Well, I'm not 80.
No,
but-
you're not 80,
Oh, no,
but
I'm
you
just
are
kidding.
part.
But you're
you
an
are
important part of
yeah,
it.
you're an important part of 80 years of history.
Yeah.
So how is?
I'm really proud of it because I think the character that we portrayed on Smallville, the Clark Kent, we got to see a side of the character that you never got to see before. I think, you know, in some of the Superman movies, you just kind of see him already at that point of his development. And to see this kid who had these abilities and wasn't sure what to do with them or where he was supposed to go or where his place was in the world or the universe, I thought that was a fun character study, and I think it just informs the Superman character that you see in the movies a little bit more. Hopefully.
And what's your story with Superman? When did it start? Did you used to read the comics, or did it started when you were doing the part?
You know, I think for me, Christopher Reeve to me he's Superman. And for me, when everybody says Superman, I think of the movies. So that's really what I grew up on. When I got the role for Smallville, I didn't necessarily research Superman because that would have been after the character that I was portraying. So I kind of just went in and tried to play a high school kid, trying to understand who he was.
So you're never frustrated because you didn't wear the uniform until the last episode?
No, I'm not one of those guys who kind of walks around in tights.
No offense taken.
And you were also a part of the Lucifer.
Yeah.
So, and you have a lot of fans of Lucifer here as well.
Yeah.
So how was to be a part of this different kind of fantasy world?
It was a lot of fun. That cast is so great. I'd watched the show myself, so when I got the call and the opportunity to be on it, I was like, yeah, it's such a fun show. It's light. It moves very quickly. Tom Ellis, he brings all that energy to that character because the way it's written and the way he plays it, it's really him as an actor bringing energy to it. And plus you get the whole, you know, the show can go anywhere because he can go to heaven, he can go to hell. You don't really know who anybody is at any given time, but each episode they solve a crime or they get closer to it. It's just fun. It's really enjoyable, and the set's the same way.
And you can come back as well, right?
I can.
Yes, you
I
can.
can.
Yeah, they're gonna have a fourth season, so yeah, maybe.
Yeah, the fans brought that show back. It was canceled, and then the fans showed so much support that Netflix picked it up, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How do you choose roles? How do you think, well, this one works for me, this one doesn't? How do you choose them?
It is different every time. I think if you're lucky enough to be in a situation where a character just seems interesting or different, but it's also what the story is, who the director is. A lot of it's, you know, what's my commitment level going to be? Because if I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to do the whole thing. If they, you know, and a lot of times we have all these limited series now, maybe 10 episodes. It's a different commitment than a 22 episode, and film is a different commitment as well. But I think in the past I've done movies like Cheaper by the Dozen because I wanted to meet Steve Martin. I did a movie called Draft Day because I wanted to work with Kevin Costner. So that's how I chose those roles. I think for Smallville it was just about, I was very interested in this character's development and because we all know where he was going to go, we just didn't know how he was going to get there. So I think a little bit of the unknown of how exactly I'm going to play a role is fun, keeps it interesting. I did a movie called The Choice where I was able to play the guy who doesn't get the girl. That was kind of fun for me to play. So I guess it's a little different each time.
And if I'm not wrong, you directed a couple of episodes of Smallville, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And how was to get behind the cameras on this
Well,
show?
I loved it. You know, the first episode I directed, I was in about 85% of the scenes. So I've only directed things that I've actually acted in as well. Sometimes it goes the opposite. But I enjoy it because there's nothing more magical than watching a scene and giving an actor a note and see it sort of bring a thought or a performance. It's chilling. It's like magic. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And I remember on the first series, the first seasons of Smallville, there was also always the Krypton freak. Have you got one that you like the most?
Amy Adams, who's now gone on to be a very successful, amazing actress, she played a character her character started off overweight, and in order to lose weight, she was eating something with kryptonite, and she kind of she went crazy, and she became like this like vamp, you know, mean character with like these high boots and these long leather jacket. And I remember she was such a good actress, and then I think it was like a couple months later, Catch Me If You Can came out, and I'm like, hey, I know her. You know, that kind of thing. So that was a lot of fun to work with her. And we had a lot of amazing actors come through there who've gone on to do some great things. But, you know, it's fun because the characters get to come in. It takes away the monotony when you have so many different actors coming in and waking things up and causing trouble. It's a lot of fun.
And how was to say goodbye to Clark? Because when you play someone for so long, it becomes a part of you, or it's kind of like a friend.
Yeah.
So how was your last scene?
Well, it's actually a pretty funny story. But before I tell that story, one of the things, over the course of 10 years, we got to tell so many stories. And we really did get to a point where, like, all right, Clark needs to grow up. He needs to move on. We wanted to end the show where we couldn't go with him, but we know he's out there. And he's Superman. Like, we wanted to let the audience's imagination sort of take them where they wanted to go. But my last day on set was quite uneventful. I was in the second to last scene of the day. We were like, okay, you know, I forget what the scene was. It wasn't even a big scene. And everybody was like, okay, and, you know, all kind of like, cool, okay, that's it. And the first AD goes, okay, everybody, we're on the wrong set. And everybody just walked that way. And I was standing there by myself, and I was like, well, I guess that's how a show ends. And I turned and walked that way. It was very unromantic, but it's just the way the show must go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking about like knowing where the character was going. I remember I had a cousin of mine, and she was very little and very passionate about Clark, and she loved.
Yeah, right. He had a cousin.
And she really loved the relationship with Clark and Lana at first. And I said, well, it's a pity they're not staying together. Lois is still coming. So no spoilers.
You told her?
Yes, I didn't know. She didn't know.
Well, that was the funny thing is everybody was like, you know, everybody knew Lois was going to come at some point. Yeah. You know, it's just a matter of how. I mean, I guess, you know, Lex helped there when he gave Lana the kryptonite skin. That kind of made it easy. And then, you know, the show's different. Between season 5 and 6, it really became a different show. You know, Clark got a job, and Lois comes into the picture, and it was a different tone. But we were able to still kind of just slowly keep evolving. I mean, it's sad because there's shows that I've watched that have gone off the air, and I'm like, oh, you know, I used to watch the show Justified. I used to watch a show called 24. And when those ended, I was so sad. And now, like, I know Kiefer Sutherland, and every time I see him, I wish he would bring back Jack Bauer. And he's like, dude, we're done. Like, so I'm a fan as well. So I know it's hard to see a show that you like end. But, you know, Clark, he needed to move on.
And you guys never think about a comeback, maybe a special episode, because now that happens a lot.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of talk, a lot of teasing about showing up. I don't think the character that I played on Smallville translates over, but I've talked to some fans and they're like, yeah, but we don't care if it translates or not. We just want to see it.
A little thing,
so,
yeah.
It's a fan moment.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Can I have those back now?
Yes, sir.
Que momento! A gente volta já já.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.